what's the government's role in holding back the rising tide of Asian hate in this country? Plus, a fight over who gets to decide what your child learns in school. And new help paying off those ginormous utility bills from last month's Arctic freeze. But is it just kicking the can down the road? That's what we're talking about right now on Kansas Week. This is Kansas Week, and I'm your host, Pilar Pedraza. Thousands of Kansans still feeling the pain of huge natural gas bills from that polar cold snap back in February. Now there's new help for at least school districts facing bills more than 6 times their normal costs.
We did get a pretty good surprise here earlier last week. And
February's cold snap hitting the Newton Public School District hard. Newton Public Schools business director Dr. David Decker says nothing could have prepared the district for this.
We were expecting around a $30,000 bill, and this bill was closer to $190,000.
Decker saying that amount was unprecedented.
You contingency plan for things that are within reason to expect.
Leaving the district stuck between a rock and a hard place.
6 times your bill in 1 month is not something that's reasonable.
Now USD 373 is turning to its contingency reserve fund, already teetering due to the coronavirus pandemic. Decker says that money can only go so far and that it is time for the state to step in.
Show that they really are looking out for education and the average Kansan.
State Treasurer Lynn Rogers says Kansas is preparing to do just that.
We've had a flood of bills that affect the state treasurer's office.
Creating a multi-million-dollar utility program he hopes schools will take advantage of to ease the burden.
They do need some relief. Businesses that get wholesale energy, so that would be schools, they would just go to their local bank and that bank can do a linked deposit with our office.
Rogers says this solution is a Band-Aid on what could be a much larger problem. Price gouging.
We need to make sure it gets investigated and checked out.
Decker agrees, but says this is hurting more than just pocketbooks.
We'll get through this, but the impact it's going to have on families and the impact it's going to have on the students' ability to learn is what's most detrimental.
And that was KAKE's John Hayes reporting. Here to discuss this with us today, we have State Representative Casey Ohibosom, a Wichita Democrat, and joining us by Zoom, State Representative Ron Howard, a Wichita Republican. Welcome to both of you. And before we jump into our discussion, Ron wanted to take a quick moment to mention your current circumstances. You took a fall during that February cold snap with some pretty serious consequences.
Yes, it was. Right now, my wife's on her way back from Topeka. She unloaded my apartment. She's leaving everything in my office. I expect to possibly get back up there before sign die if they'll release me. The release date is supposed to be the 21st, which is my anniversary, but I'll have to have someone accompany me because of my restrictions. Mm-hmm. They're very, very tight right now.
Yeah.
I have a team of 16 doctors looking after me. This is something we didn't expect, but you never know what life gives you, so I'm making lemonade right now.
Which is why you're joining us from a rehab hospital on this show. You know, you were very eager when I called. I didn't realize what was going on, but you're like, nope, I can do the show. So, Ron,
I can tell you, I've been following the issues. I've been Zooming all of my committees. So I'm well aware of what's going on up there. And I applaud my colleagues and I applaud Casey for his leadership in the South Central District.
Yeah. And
Candace,
so,
thank you.
Yeah, and so we're going to jump into today's discussion here. Ron, I'm going to start with you, but a lot of folks have talked about these giant bills that came out of that February cold snap, a lot of accusations of price gouging. What, if anything, can the state do about it? What kind of conversations have you been involved in on this?
What kind of conversations? I haven't been hearing much. I'm on the outside of the loop right now.
Okay.
Unless I'm in Topeka in a specific meeting, they block me out.
Are you hearing from constituents on this?
Am I what?
Are you hearing from constituents?
Yes. I'm getting about 150 to 200 emails a week from that price gouging. We haven't got our unemployment, and it just keeps going on. And I have an OA, and 3 other representatives that sat outside in my office area that's helping me. And we just keep sending the same emails, KDOL, and KDOL seems like they're asleep at the wheel.
Yeah.
And we need it brought to the attention of just more than just the state. We need to bring it to the attention of the news media and saying, we need to get these people the help they need.
Yeah. What about you,
Now.
Casey? Are you hearing a lot about price gouging? Is there anything the state can do about it at this point?
Yes, I've heard a lot from not just only my constituents, but from others in regards to possible price gouging that took place. And the governor actually has asked the Attorney General to actually look into it to see if it did occur. Of course, we see small towns and school districts, presented with very high bills of energy. People, possibly some energy companies are trying to take advantage of the cold weather that took place. And should there be, price gouging found by the Attorney General's office, I think that the Attorney General should step in to prosecute because, of course, this is totally wrong. Of course, you have school districts trying to find funds to actually meet areas of needs within their districts, and all of a sudden they're hitting with a huge gas bill. So I support my colleague when he says about price gouging and also other issues that constituents are bringing up, like unemployment. We need to find a way to actually resolve all of this.
Definitely. And those loans that the state legislature approved for cities and counties
Right.
now being expanded to schools and other wholesale gas buyers.
That's right.
Really helping them out, but kind of leaving Joe Blow on the street out in the cold, shall we say.
Well, I think that, of course, the legislature has done that in terms of appropriating the funds for the local governments and also the schools. We are going back to veto session, and we may possibly find a way to accommodate some of the areas that we have left off. That could be a possibility, in terms of discussion. So we just have to wait and see when we go back to veto session.
Yeah, and that veto session about 2 weeks from
That's
now.
correct.
So, and there's a lot of stuff on the pile, including something that's coming up in our next story
Sure.
here. Overall funding for Kansas schools remains in limbo as state lawmakers are on their 3-week spring break. Rebecca Chung of the KSN Capitol Bureau shows us that puts the must-do legislation under a tight deadline.
The courts have been clear. Kansas must not reduce spending on public education. But after a week of chaos, it's among the last items of business Kansas lawmakers will take up when they return in May.
Districts are hoping to recover from budgets that we've lost in the past.
The state's education budget has gradually increased after decades of court battles to boost school spending. Public school advocates say districts across the state are waiting to figure out what they'll have to work with.
The longer it takes the legislature to resolve this, the longer it is before schools can really know what their funding will be like for next year.
Their efforts ended in a tie last week after some lawmakers wanted to allow low-income students to attend private schools. Some critics say the plan would strip public schools of the money they need.
We don't want to be in a position where schools or the governor has to choose between funding that agreement and accepting some things that we think may also be very detrimental.
It's possible debates will pick back up when lawmakers return. At the Capitol, I'm Rebecca Chung.
All right, 2 tries, 2 fails. What do you think is the biggest sticking point in education funding legislation this year so far?
That's right. In regards to, I think that you actually hit the nail into the coffin there when you said we're on a tight, deadline. Both K through 12 budget, House and Senate, they know that once we get back into veto session, they have their hands full that, look, we have to come up with a budget for education. We do know that education takes about 52% of our entire budget. So, of course, what was passed before we left, of course, it didn't pass through the Senate. A lot of senators had concerns in regards to what was passed from the House. I think that, we'll come back when veto session, K through 12 will actually present a budget that will be within the governor's recommendations so we can fully fund schools for the next school year.
Now, a lot of the concerns raised in the Senate surrounded these educational savings accounts, accusations that they're vouchers by another name. Do you feel like that's really what's kind of holding up education funding? Are there other issues involved in the bills that are kind of also problematic?
The centerpiece is that in regards to the education funding, we still have to comply with the Supreme Court decision. So I think that some of the money that was trying to allocate for school vouchers, I think that didn't rub well with a lot of people, particularly in the Senate. And they're like, look, if we do this, allocate more money towards vouchers, that's not going to, work. That's not going to actually comply with the Supreme Court's ruling. I think that we need to K through 12 budget needs to go back and actually come up with a plan that actually will comply. And again, a lot of things could happen, a lot of negotiations, but the main thing is for us to make sure that we are funding schools, make sure we have strong school districts, making sure that we are giving the resources to our school districts to make sure that they're doing the jobs that they need to do.
Yeah. And Ron, I'm going to turn to you real quick. I know you've been trying to keep up with what's been going on at the State House. When you think of the education funding debate, what are your thoughts? Where do you stand in all of this?
What are my thoughts about what?
About the education funding debate.
Well, the education debate, which I've been following, people want school of choice. Okay, I'm hearing that all over the place because some of our school system is good, 259, it's okay, and so are some of the other ones. But most of the parents that have been coming up to me saying, "I want to be able to have my child have choices, more choices than just what the curriculum is and how they're doing it." Okay, and without those choices, I feel I'm putting restriction on my children. So a lot of them are telling me that if schools don't open up and allow them to have that become available, they're going to leave our school system. They're going to leave our cities because they're tired of being dictated to. And that's what I've been hearing. Mind you, I'm a captive audience, right? I'm hearing that every day from different nurses, different doctors, and they're telling me, I want my children to succeed. I don't want them to be limited and rat-holed in some little, here is a curriculum, and if you don't like it, that's the way it is. We need to be able to open up and become innovative and find things that will stimulate our children. My grandson goes to Clearwater. When he was going to a different school system, he was rat-holed. He went from straight D's, went to Clearwater, now he's making A's and B's. The difference is how the curriculum is. We need to be looking at how can we make our educational system appeal to our children and keep them engaged.
All right, and Casey, you indicated you had some thoughts on those.
Yes, I just wanted to say in regards to this voucher proposal that was actually presented, some of the money that was actually talking about is for students to actually get the vouchers to go to schools that are not accredited. And we want a situation whereby if anybody is accepting money from the government or any institution, we want to make sure that we are accountable to what's being, for the taxpayers on what's actually being given out. So I think that's where the disagreement we have in regards to school choice. Now, any student can go to any school they want to. I mean, we're not prohibiting any child from attending what school they want. We're just saying that, look, if you are attending a public school, we're going to make sure we're funding it 100% and not actually taking money out from the public schools and giving it to you to go to a school system or any other school that is not accredited. So we want to be accountable to the taxpayers. We want to make sure that we are held accountable, because we're spending the taxpayers' money. So that's the reason why the disagreement that comes in with regards to school choice.
And a very good between you and Ron there. Layout of kind of the debate that's going on right now over all of that funding and how we do it. But one thing that comes up with school choice is curriculum. The Kansas Board of Education this week told the state legislature, get off our turf. The source of the turf war, 2 bills that would legislate what classes schools would have to offer your child. KAKE's Jessica Crawford explains.
Well, House Bill 2039 would require a civics exam and a financial literacy course for students to be able to graduate. House Bill 2089 is aimed at firearm safety in schools. The civics test would have 60 questions and would be a graduation requirement starting in the 2022-2023 school year. Representative Steve Hubert, a Republican out of Valley Center, has been a big supporter of that bill. House Bill 2089 would require the state's Board of Education to develop guidelines for firearm safety programs if the districts offer any gun safety instruction. According to the Topeka Capital Journal, the bill on civics exams and financial literacy is on Governor Kelly's desk right now. The one on gun safety has to be passed again by the House before it can get to Governor Kelly's desk. Now, today, the State Board of Education said that it has the sole constitutional authority to implement any graduation requirements. It voted 10-0 to have a board member meet with the governor to inform her about the board's standards for high school education. Some board members voiced concern that just having a board member meet with Governor Kelly instead of taking more concrete action would not be enough to get the message across. We'll keep you updated on both of these bills, both on air and online. I'm Jessica Crawford, Cake News on your side.
Well, Ron, this has turned into a couple of bills there that are maybe unexpectedly, to some at least, controversial, although certainly the NRA's involvement with the firearm safety course has been very controversial. What are your thoughts on those two bills? Are they things that the legislature should be involved in?
Yes, because last session, before Sine Die, we had a bill for accountability that from money spending, for learning, for grading, and it didn't pass. Now they're saying, and what I've been reading and looking through the different bills and stuff, that the teachers now want to be retrained or they want additional training. What's the difference between last year and this year? Not much. So what they're asking for more. I don't mind more, but I want to see proficiency. I want to see efficiency, where children have something that when they go in, they are excited about learning. I have a 5-year-old that is granddaughter that goes Clearwater, and she is fully engaged, and she's in the beginning part. Okay, the teachers there took advanced courses at WSU. Okay, I believe that if this is needed, we need to be able to provide some type of assistance so we can get those teachers up to that level. But I need to understand why they need it, and I haven't found anything that says that so far. And we had a whole year basically where everyone stayed home and did online training. I don't understand why now the teachers saying we need more, and I would like to know more about that.
Okay. What about the legislature telling schools what classes they have to present to students? Do you think that that is the legislature's job or the Board of Education's job?
Both. I think it goes hand in hand. I think we are co-partners.
Okay.
Look, the power of the purse is in our pocket, in our hand. But the power of teaching our children to have some purse is in the teachers. We need to be able to find a way to make that happen. And we need to find where the short gaps are. I don't know where they're at. I just hear there are some. I hear they need more. I wish we could have some type of study that would come out, present it to us legislators so we could read it, learn about it, and say, okay, maybe these different things we need to add on, or we need to fund. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. Well, thank you. And Casey, as we look at this, obviously there's a whole nother perspective on this concern that there's a removal of local control your state board of education, your local board of education, deciding what classes are appropriate in your district.
That is correct. But in regards to the civics test, I mean, this is just not, it's not like a class they're going to teach. It's kind of like a test that's going to be given to graduating seniors. Now, again, this about current events, stuff that has been going on in our communities and within our states. This is stuff that if students are engaged, how will I say, reading newspapers, watching the news. I mean, this is just basic civics, questions. It's not something that, they have to go and actually go to a class to go learn. Yes, I'm all for local control, and I think that it should be set by the both local school district and the curriculum by the State Board of Education. But again, in regards to the civics test, I mean, like I said, it's just a test. It's not like it's a class that we're saying you guys need to teach this for graduating seniors. No. But I'm all for local control. I think that it should stay with the locals, and they should actually come up with a program that actually will address the civics test.
Okay. Well, we're now going to switch gears a little bit, talk about something else other than schools. Turning to Kansas on the national stage, our U.S. senators are split on a bill that would confront hate crimes directed at Asian Americans. Lawmakers in D.C. say they're taking action to ensure attacks against people of Asian descent are treated as hate crimes. That's according to the Associated Press. The COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act would instruct the Justice Department to assign someone to review COVID-19 hate crimes on a faster timetable and to work with states on reporting those crimes. Kansas's 2 U.S. senators are split on the proposal. Junior Senator Roger Marshall says the existing federal hate crimes law already prohibits injuring or trying to injure others based on their race, color, religion, or national origin. But Senior Senator Jerry Moran voted for a debate on the bill. He's part of a bipartisan group of senators who have been pushing for a no-hate act, which includes such things as training law enforcement on how to investigate hate crimes, creating a hate crimes hotline, and expanding assistance for victims of hate crimes. This all comes as a new study from California State University shows hate crimes in 16 of America's largest cities jumped nearly 150% last year, while hate crimes overall fell by 7%. Now, this is something that normally, it's not state legislation, but certainly major cities across the country have seen this. We haven't had reported cases in Sedgwick County, but a lot of concerns that less violent cases perhaps not being reported at all. Are you hearing anything from your communities?
Well, not necessarily my community, but my colleague, Representative Shue, Representative Howard, our colleague from Johnson County, he in Kansas City has gotten some pretty unpleasant things that have happened to him ever since this has broken out. And of course, we all need to stand up against hate. We don't need to hate each other. We need to come together as one. In regards to this, I was kind of disappointed with Senator Marshall, as to I'm not supporting it, but I'll let him speak for it. But again, we need to. Wherever we see hate, we need to condemn it, and wherever by condemning it, we need to put a stop to it. We need to actually promote respect and tolerance for everyone. So we see it in the African American community, in regards to different things on both social media and if it's an attack against one, it's an attack against all, whether you're African American, Hispanic, Native American, Asian, even whites. I mean, it's wrong. And I just want to say that we need to put a stop to it. And whatever legislation is coming from the federal, we need to support it.
Yeah. Ron, are you hearing anything from your voters about these concerns at all?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to say that I go to Central Community Church, okay? And our church is a 3,000 seat sanctuary. It's over on West Wichita. Okay? Now, I've had pastors and friends take shots, and first time around, they're fine. Second time around, they put both of my senior pastors in the hospital. I am not for taking that COVID-19 until they do more testing. There's something wrong with it. Okay? I do believe that if we do exactly practice spacing, Do not touch other people. We can get through this until we get a nice, good vaccine out there that will help. And I believe that's what your question was, wasn't it?
Well, I think maybe you didn't hear some of the story because through the Zoom that we have you dialed in on. I apologize for that. The story is about a bill that would deal with Asian hate crimes that are on the rise in the country.
Oh,
And,
crimes on the rise.
yeah, hate crimes.
Hate crimes?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I know you don't have the best connection there. But
I apologize.
Are you hearing anything from your community about attitudes toward Asians as the pandemic continues?
I'm hearing things back and forth about hate crimes. Around our church, people tagging and stuff like that. I think that's wrong, but I also think it's wrong for other people to try to force their will on somebody else and their thoughts. I believe this is free America. You have a way to believe the way you want to believe. I believe we have the right to debate stuff. We're going to be right or wrong on a lot of stuff, but I think we need to take the hate out of it. It doesn't need to be there. We were born to be a community, to work together, to make things work, to solve problems, and to help, not to make things worse. Sorry.
No,
go on.
That's okay. And Casey, you seem to have some thoughts on
I
there.
concur what you said. And of course, we're a loving community, and there's no need for us to hate one another. And again, wherever we see it, we need to condemn it, speak out against it.
All right. And we are almost out of time, so we're going to end our discussion right there. Casey, Ron, thank you both so much for joining me this week. We would also like to thank our news partners at Cake News, KSN News, and the Wichita Eagle for sharing their materials with us. We'd love to continue the discussion with you and hear what your thoughts are. Just email us at kansasweek@kpts.org. For now, have a great week, and thanks so much.